Hey everyone, welcome back to AI Insights. I'm your host for today, Fleur Prince, and I'm here together with Uvika Sharma. She's the founder at Intelda, and so happy to have you here on the show to talk more about your career, your perspective on AI, and all the work you do. I'm very curious, and I think our listeners are too. Please say hello.
Thanks so much for having me here, Floor. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Yeah, because you're on an entirely different continent than me, right?
Yes, I am in the US, in New Jersey.
Awesome. Oh, I love that place so much.
You should come and visit me.
Ooh, future plans. I'm definitely putting it on my list. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, can you do a short introduction who you are for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Uvika Sharma. As you said, that I'm the founder at Intelda. Intelda is a data and AI consulting firm. We work with companies, whether it's Fortune 500 companies or startups, to really help them implement AI responsibly.
Awesome. I think I'll jump in with the first question then, because you just mentioned you founded Intilda recently. What was the reason that you thought this is the moment for me to set up my company?
Yeah, so I've been in the independent consulting space for almost 13 years, and I've had a chance to work with major clients across various domains such as strategy, change management, project execution, and governance and compliance. And what I noticed was that many firms specialize in just one or two of these areas. But when working with AI and data driven transformations, I felt that it's very important to focus on all of these elements and they need to come together. Even though I founded Intelda recently, I have another company, Loomis. So, that is also live. But I think with Intelda, the specific focus was on AI, and I wanted to bridge this gap that I just mentioned by offering a more holistic approach to integrate strategy, change management, and governance to ensure that organizations not only implement AI effectively, but also manage the risks and drive real business value. Another gap I identified is accessibility. So many companies want to work with big consulting firms, but smaller and mid-sized corporations and startups often struggle to get the right guidance. So I thought that, okay, who's going to help them? So that's why I also decided to focus more on small businesses and also advising startups so I can help them navigate AI adoption and data strategies effectively. And the other thing that I learned, and this goes across both large corporations and small corporations and startups, AI literacy is a huge challenge. So you know that as well, being in Europe. And big and small firms both need help in this space. And you know that aren't enough people who can
No.
truly break down what AI is and what it can and cannot do and the risks involved. So with Intilda, the aim is to actually close that gap by helping organizations build a real understanding of AI, not just from a technical perspective, but also from a strategic and ethical standpoint. So those are some of the reasons where I felt that, okay, we need to have this organization that's going to help bridge this gap.
That's actually really interesting because so what's actually funny is that, well, funny, is that in the Dutch government, it has actually just recently become obligated that all employees have AI literacy so that they actually understand, one, the AI tools that they use, and second, if they are allowed to use it, depending on where the data goes. Which you see is a huge struggle right now also in the European market, but it's also interesting to see as well that that's a gap in the market in the US.
Big time.
Because yeah, it's the one of the biggest place. How do you go? You guys have Silicon Valley, where a lot of AI development is taking place.
You
But I
know
guess
what's interesting is for, and sorry, so even though the AI development is happening for the folks who are developing, but you'll be
mhm.
surprised, a lot of other divisions within the organizations, people actually don't understand how the technology works. People who are in the weeds are the ones who know how it works.
Yeah, I know when I'm explaining this to other people, it's usually so. Wait, they take my data and use it somewhere else. I'm like, yes, unless you have turned it off. Your data is being used to train the AI models, but it also means someone else, if they're good at prompting, can dig up that information.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, by the way, we know each other from the women and AI community. I think that's where we first met online in the chat group. Where I also found it super actually relevant of seeing other women in the AI field who are actually working, making sure that indeed this gap closes. kind of triggered me as well, being like, oh, this is actually maybe something that needs to be done with. But awesome to see you set up your own company with the initiative to close this gap. I also saw that you are the founder, okay, I hope I'm saying this, Asian Women Advancing AI. Other question, why, like, what specific challenges do you see for women in AI, and what initiatives are you implementing as a founder?
So you and I both know that there aren't enough of us in this field. And as you just said, that we found each other through the Women in AI community. Amazing community, love the women who started. And I'm so glad they started that, right? Otherwise, how else you and I would have found each other?
No,
So,
definitely. I think maybe not in a million years.
all right. So you are all the way in Europe and I'm here in the US. So thanks to those ladies. So, and even though we are on LinkedIn, we see that we are there. But again, you and I know that there are still not enough of us. So when I started my career in tech more than 20 years ago, there were very few women in tech. And even with AI, that gap still remains. So we often see that women are, in general, very hesitant to enter tech. And that hesitation means that fewer of us are actually in the rooms where AI is being built or evaluated. I'll just give you a very simple example. Forget like AI. Even with trying to do any kind of configuration, like technical configuration, I often see some of my friends who are not in tech or in different roles, they'll try to delegate that job to their husbands, and I'd say, no, you're capable of doing it. Let's sit down and let's do it. So anyways, coming back, so one of the major issues is that AI systems can be biased and produce incorrect outputs. And if we don't have diverse voices involved, those biases can actually go unchecked. And women don't necessarily need to know how to code with AI. I feel that now that the barriers to entries, have been reduced, but I think it's good, like if they make an attempt to understand it, how it works and how to assess its impact. And how they would do that is by learning how to use the technology. And again, it goes back to the literacy, right? Understanding how it works, understanding the risks, and being able to call out that, okay, what's right versus what's wrong. Hey, this does not seem right. So with Asian Women Advancing AI, Padmini and my goal is to make sure that we are making AI more inclusive by ensuring that women have a seat at the table. And when Padmini and I started AWAI, so that's the short form for
Oh,
Asian,
I okay, nice.
is our goal was to make sure that women, especially Asian women, stay more current in the field of AI by launching a few initiatives. And it's also primarily because of the cultural background that we come from. We're both Indians, Asian descent, and we know that in general, Asian women are quieter and they are, would be lagging behind. So through this AWAI initiative, we want to provide education, mentorship, and opportunities for women to engage with AI so that women can not only understand the technology, but also have an opportunity to shape the future. So you have heard, I hope everybody's heard by now, that AI is transforming the workforce, and it's very important for women to feel empowered to use and influence these tools. So we are actually not left behind. So we have a few initiatives that we have launched as part of Asian Women Advancing AI. So one is the mentorship program. Then we have two series. One is called the Innovate and Advance series, where we get trailblazing women to come and share their learnings and empower people with their lived experiences. It's true, when we see more of us, we get motivated. So for women, things have been challenging because in general, we are juggling multiple things, right? I think even you are trying to do five or six things at the same time. So I think the idea is that despite these challenges, it's an opportunity to show how certain women are juggling multiple things, yet they are making an impact in the field of AI. And then the other series we have is the Learn and Lead, where we are providing workshops where people actually have a chance to practice the skills. And we had a successful session on retrieval augmented generation RAG. And we have great stuff planned in the pipeline. So even though the community is Asian Women Advancing AI, there were a few people, who are not like Asian, but they decided to join the workshop because they said that, oh, this is great. I want to learn how to implement a RAG pipeline. So yeah, so we're super excited. Padmini and I want to make this a global hub, and yeah, let's see where it takes us.
That's super cool to hear. Is this something people can follow online, or is it something you physically?
It's a group on LinkedIn. We are working on getting a website together. It was literally like a spur of the moment. I think we need to have a separate conversation on how we to launch the community. She and I were at a conference in October, and then we just
Hmm.
started talking, and then boom, like 10 days later we launched the group in November. So yeah, it's a LinkedIn group, but yeah, people can start following the LinkedIn group. It's just type in Asian women advancing AI and people would be able to find it, and they can just request to join the group.
I will definitely do that because I'm from Indonesian descent, so it kind of counts as Asian. So awesome to hear that you guys are organizing this. Also, the reasons why you're organizing this, because even now, like, not to be mean about age, but even now, like when I entered the field 3 years ago, I saw the difference when it came to a lot of men, not a lot of women in tech, even here in Europe, which got me thinking like, okay, I need to be as loud as possible to show at least other people who are thinking of joining the field. They can see like, hey, there actually is female presence in the tech field. And yeah, I think because I've already seen that impact myself when I was giving workshops at a conference for children to show them how tech can be useful for your personal life and also why coding is interesting, why it's handy to learn, even though I do know there are like Replit AI agents, Cursor, you name it. It's still handy to have because by the end of the day, you still need to be able to debug stuff yourself. AI is nice, but it cannot do that yet. And also that RAG is indeed a good thing to learn because I did read an article recently that said like RAG is dead, but it is definitely not. I also saw one of close acquaintances of mine as well. She launched, they're called Query Lab or Smabbler, where they have a tool that lets you use RAG, which is pretty interesting. I signed up for the beta version. See how that goes.
Wow.
By the way, I also saw that you worked across, so I hope this is right, P, Moody's, and Citigroup, and also for pharma like Pfizer. How do AI implementations challenge differ between these industries? Have you seen any differences in that?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. So over the years, working for different industries, whether it was financial services, pharma, or even other companies that I had consulted when I was at Accenture, and even now, the kind of clients I work with, they span across different industries like big tech and lots of other industries. What I learned is that AI implementation challenges actually really vary across these different industries, and it's primarily due to a number of reasons. So, one could be culture, the other could be because of the decision making process. Other reason could be because of risk tolerance and regulatory environments. So, the way an organization approaches AI is shaped a lot by the industry's unique demands and constraints. So, for highly regulated industries like finance and healthcare, compliance and governance is of utmost priority. In finance, AI can often do things like risk management, fraud detection, automation, but it also requires strict regulation. And that means there is a strong focus on having model transparency and explainability. Then, with healthcare or pharma, AI plays a role in discovery, drug discovery, or patient diagnostic or patient care. And I think in those kind of use cases, accuracy is very important because any kind of mistake can have a direct impact on the human lives. Whereas industries like retail or functions like marketing, there's a little bit more flexibility to experiment with AI. You can use it for customer insights, personalization. So the regulatory hurdles are less, not so much. But sectors like manufacturing or supply chain, AI can be used to optimize, like, logistics or do predictive maintenance. But it has implementation challenges because they are also dealing with a lot of like legacy systems, a lot of like those clunky systems. And I think it ultimately comes down to the culture. One of the things that I had mentioned previously, some industries, have a very innovative culture, and they're fast paced, they're innovation driven, so for them AI adoption is a little easier. uh, And then for many companies, they have very long decision making cycles and they are risk averse. So I think it really varies. I remember when I was at one of the pharma companies, we were trying to implement a just in time training tool. And even to get something implemented, I think just to have a conversation with IT and, just convincing them like used to take almost like 6 to 8 months, right? And of course, they'll find something or the other. This is not going to work. This is not compliant, XYZ. But yeah, I think it just varies, right? For industry due to like all the number of reasons that I just pointed out.
But also, based on your experience then as from the analyst roles, so you were also in analyst roles a lot to founding multiple organizations. Did your perspective also change on AI strategy because of this through your career?
It absolutely did. So now that I think about it, right, that being in hands-on roles as an analyst and then moving up in different divisions, different functions and roles to founding my own company and advising corporations on decision making, assessing risk, it definitely has shaped my perspective on AI strategy. One of the things that I think about whenever somebody talks about implementing AI, the first thing I want to ask them that what is the goal, right? And how does fit into the organization's vision, right? Like how well is it aligned to the goal? How does it fit into the organization's vision?
I think indeed the question is also why do you want it?
Exactly, right? Like, are you doing it because there is a clear need for it? Or is it a shiny object? So I think that's very important. And then, yeah, it also has forced me to think about, and it's primarily because of the roles that I had, that, okay, who are the right people who need to be in the room, who's getting impacted, internal or external, so your stakeholders, and then thinking with a risk mindset, right? Because many times you'll think about all the benefits that something is going to achieve, but do you put your risk cap on and think about the threat that this is going to bring? How are you complying? Are you monitoring? Where are my monitoring and legal folks? So I feel all these roles definitely help shape my perspective about how I approach AI strategy.
Would you also say that because of this as well, you've seen like different AI trends emerge as well among business leaders? Or as things that they aren't paying attention to right now?
So you'll see that there are like these different pockets. So you'll see your AI governance folks who are going to be, tooting the horn and for the right reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm also preparing for my AI governance certification, so that these are all the risks that come through. Then there are the people that, yes, let's go with AI, and AI is going to do XYZ. And then, of course, like you have the ethicists. So there are like all these different pockets. But I don't know if there's one person who's thinking about all those things. So yeah, there's definitely different, pockets of people or trends that you may want to call it, are emerging as a result of this.
Yeah, because what I notice often is when I'm talking to people about AI, they always, like I said earlier, they always ask, I want to implement AI. And then I'm like, yeah, but why? And then usually it ends up they just want to automate certain tasks. And I'm like, it's kind of AI, but you can also just use make.com or something like that.
I had this conversation with my dentist a few months ago. So, yeah.
Or for example, like, oh yeah, I don't want my agenda to be so full, or I don't want to like, do you know when you have to like go back and forward with people to just make an appointment and like you can also just make a booking page and just tell people, here you go, here's my agenda, find a time that suits you. Because it saves you so much on an email chain, but that's just automation. That's not AI.
Or, whatever. There's so many other tools out there nowadays.
Exactly. But I also love challenging people as well when it comes to this question, like, what do you really want? Because for me, when I say like AI, I'm really thinking of like big LLM models running data, for example, finding out why the weather. So, for example, with an emergency service, I was talking about, okay, how can you best prepare? Well, if you know what the weather is like, going to be like, you can or at least already prepare for that outcome and see somewhere on the map of your country. Okay, hey, there's going to be a huge ass storm over here. You might want to send emergency service over there. You can all do that based on data, and then you're talking about AI
Hmm.
being helpful.
Yes.
Also, I saw, by the way, that you specialize in translating complex data into actionable insights. Can you share an example where your data strategy significantly impacted the business's outcome because of it?
So I have a number of examples, but one of the examples that I kind of just hold very closely to my heart is when I started my first job, even graduating before graduating from college, I started in data warehousing at a bank, and it was maybe like 19 or 20. Um, so the bank used to process large files, and there used to be related to security services and funds for some of their investors and clients. So these batches used to come, and they had this ETL tool. So in data warehousing and in general, like in data processing, the ETL tool is extraction, transform, load. So back in the days, the bank that I was working at, they were using this tool called Netic. And I used to be in the meetings, and I used to hear that how, because of this tool's poor processing job, the data loads used to get delayed in the warehouse. And as a result, it used to have a lot of impact on other jobs that were dependent on this, because the clients next day would not see the information or their funds properly reflected with the adequate data, and the other jobs would fail because of that. So, and I was new, right? I was very new, and I used to go to these meetings, and every time I would hear, oh, so and so job and like batch failed. So then I just asked one of those days, I think I asked one of the senior people who was in the room, I asked him, can you show me, how this tool works and what it's essentially doing? And then I learned what the tool was doing, as I said. And then the other day when I went to the meeting, same thing I heard. So then I asked them, why do you have to use the tool? Can't you use another methodology to do this exact same thing? So I knew how to code in SQL, and I said that there is something called stored procedures, which I feel still exists. And it's essentially a very quick way of loading data, and you can basically decide how the data needs to be processed within SQL itself and not using any external tool. So when I mentioned that in the meeting, one of the people looked at me, he said, she's right, it can happen. Yeah, so then I decided to work with that person. I used to come on the weekends to work on this project. And for the result was remarkable, where like a batch job in Netic used to take 2 hours to load a file. With the help of stored procedures, which was just simple coding, the upload took like 2 minutes. So that was like huge time saving.
Yeah, definitely.
It did, and actually, so I had an internship, and that internship actually turned into a full-time offer.
I would expect nothing less if you solved that problem for them.
Yeah, so I was very, very proud of myself, and I was so young. Yeah, it's one of the examples that I really hold dearly to my heart. But in general, when you're talking about data strategy, which I feel helps me when I'm advising clients, is just, thinking about a few things, and I'm just going to mention in case, it's of interest to our listeners. So I always like to ask the people that I'm working with, like you said, what is it that you're trying to do? What do you need it for? If it surely involves data, which it does in my case, do we have it? If not, how are we going to get it? And then, is it clean? So that's where all the problems, kind of come to life, that, oh, it's not clean, we have gaps, etc. But I think these are some very important questions to ask when you're trying to implement AI or working on, data-driven projects.
And asking just a few extra questions can help you save apparently a huge amount of time.
Yes.
That's so helpful. I think also indeed for our listeners, if you have any questions around this, please do reach out to Uvika because she knows the solution. I was, by the way, wondering because you've said you've now worked both with startups and Fortune 500 companies. How do you think their AI adoption approaches differ?
Yeah, startups tend to have a very different approach compared to larger organizations when it comes to AI adoption. So startups tend to move fast. And one of the reasons is because they have fewer legacy systems or even none, right? The other reason is they also have less bureaucracy, and they have higher risk tolerance. So the focus for startups is always on rapid growth. They want to acquire customers, they want to secure funding, they want to get money from the VCs.
Mhm.
So they're willing to iterate and experiment and pivot, so the decision making is much faster and there are fewer stakeholders involved, so I feel that there are fewer hoops to jump through. But when it comes to large corporations, they try to take a more measured approach. So AI adoption usually requires extensive change management, stakeholder alignment, training, and compliance considerations. The risk is also higher because AI implementation impacts a larger workforce. Existing processes and the regulatory obligations are more. So I feel like these organizations need to ensure that AI integrates well in their existing infrastructure, which can absolutely slow down adoption. So ultimately, startups want to prioritize speed and agility, while big corporations want to focus on stability, scalability, and risk. So the journey and approach is very, very different.
Yeah, I can definitely agree on that part as well, from a personal experience, where you see the difference between. Well, I've noticed that large corporations focus more on indeed cybersecurity as well, compared to startups where everything just goes as fast as possible and security is a second priority.
Yes.
Okay, so what framework do you actually advise, advise executives on prioritizing when they have AI initiatives on their mind?
So I like to take them through like five core pillars. So one is strategic alignment.
Hmm.
As you and I love the question, like what is it that you're trying to do? So what is the ultimate goal of the AI initiative and how does it align with the company's vision and long-term strategy? Then the second thing I like them to think about is the business impact, right? What measurable impact will this initiative have? What is the ROI? Will it drive revenue? Is it going to improve the operational efficiency? Is it going to enhance customer experience? Or is it going to give you a competitive edge? Then the third thing I like to have them focus on is the feasibility and the cost. You don't
Hmm.
realize how expensive these implementations can get. So, what resources are required in terms of budget, talent, and technology? So, do you have the right infrastructure in place? Are you going to need significant investments? So I think that's also something that's very important. Then the fourth thing is my favorite. I love it. It's thinking about risk assessment and management. What are the risks of implementing the AI initiative? And then what are the risks of not doing it? And you have to think about ethical, regulatory, and operational risks. You need to think about all three of them. How much time is it going to take and the scalability, right? So, how quickly can this initiative be implemented? And can you scale it across the organization to other business units? So, I usually like to have my clients think through all these five to help them prioritize, right? Depending on what's important so that they can actually make an informed decision.
Awesome, thanks for sharing. And based on that, what would you say are the AI trends people should look out for right now, besides Gen AI?
Oh my God. So, if you have not heard of agents, you should definitely start looking up and reading on what agents are. So, I feel that AI agents are going to reshape the way businesses operate by automating workflows, enhancing decision making, and really enabling businesses to operate at level of efficiency that you had not even imagined. I imagine that there are going to be specialized agents in different functions and industries. So you'll see agents in HR, finance, customer service, clients, and sales. We are going to come to a point where these agents are going to be handling a lot of the simple to like complex queries and multi-step processes, and only difficult tasks are going to be routed to humans. The other thing that I'm also envisioning seeing is that we are basically going to be orchestrating these multiple agents. So, with that, You're not going to have one tool. You're not going to have one AI tool that's going to do it all. You're basically going to be seeing multiple agents that are going to be doing like some of these specialized tasks, and these agents are going to be talking to each other. So for example, an e-commerce company could have AI agents managing inventory, doing pricing strategy, doing personalized customer recommendations and logistics, and all of these agents are going to be talking to each other to optimize supply chain in real time. I also see a lot of AI agent use cases in personal life. For example, an AI agent, with the smart refrigerator looking at my fridge and telling me, hey, you're running out of milk. Do you want me to order milk? Going the business side, there are a lot of things that are going to happen. We'll also have a lot of AI powered, decision making where the AI is going to be able to analyze the data and advise executives on strategic
Hmm.
decisions. You'll have like risk assessments, market forecasts, and then you'll have a lot of AI native businesses that are going to be popping up, which are going to require less and less of human intervention. But on the personal side, I feel that, and I hope people don't think I'm crazy, but I feel we're going to get to a point where the smartphone is going to be dead. We're going to have like these wearable technologies, and the phone is going to be there to as like your central controlling processor. But literally, I imagine a future where we're going to be talking to like all these like mini agents, and they'll basically negotiate contracts on our behalf. They're going to order stuff for us. They're going to automatically scan things. They're going to book appointments for us. So yeah, the future is going to be very, very interesting.
I feel definitely like this future. Do you know the movie like Player One? Well, besides the dystopian part, only I think tech is going to have a big impact on our life. I mean, you can already see it in China in their dark factories that they created. There's like almost no people, no lights, just pure machines making cars and, well, you name it. I was just like, oh my god, wait, there is no people here? But not at all. It's just the things come out and they're done. Because I first thought dark factories, like, are we talking about like some kind of Dark Vader stuff? But no, it's just that they turned off the lights because robots don't need light to see what they're doing.
Oh my God, yes.
It's just pure efficiency at this point. So I definitely see it happen. I am curious about wearable tech as well, how that will change because I know people like want to move away from screens and everything. So like how do you do less screens and more time with the people around you
hmm
to see how that goes. But indeed, super interesting. Well, and then I think we are out of time though. So I want to thank you so much for sharing all that you did and also telling us more about who you are, Uvika, and also how you set up Intelda, the Asian Women Advancing AI, and also, yeah, telling more about how your career developed over the years. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our listeners?
If you haven't gotten on to the AI bandwagon, now is the time. Don't wait, and you can take small steps. You don't need to be an AI whiz. You don't need to be a technical person to get started. So if you're listening, please start learning about AI now. And the AI revolution is here.
And it's going to stay, most likely. Anyways, everyone, thanks again for listening in and tuning in and to AI Insights. I'm your host, Fleur Prince. Like, subscribe, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon Music. We're looking forward to the next episode. And again, Uvika, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Flor. I had such a great time chatting with you.
All right, everyone, goodbye.